Good evening, everyone. Today we have Stephen King Reviews number 3, Different Seasons. This is the third Stephen King book that I've read since September last year, and a thoroughly enjoyable one for sure. This book contains 4 novellas: Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, Apt Pupil, The Body, and The Breathing Method. A prison break from an innocent man. A young boy, corrupted by a Nazi until the student surpasses the master. A coming of age story of 4 kids on a journey to find a dead body. And a woman's desire to give birth no matter what it takes. With this story, the horror factor was a 6 out of 10 because it manages to be scary with simple, realistic depictions, often being the center points of where the horror is in real life as well as in these stories. The story quality I would give 10 out of 10 because all 4 of these stories are unique, compelling, and fantastic. Isn't really a bad one in the bunch. Some I admit I like more than others, which I would say are probably Apt Pupil and The Breathing Method, because I've seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption, which actually is fantastic in how to the point the portrayal of the novella is. Spot on. In fact, they add things that kind of explain missing links in the story itself that I thought perfectly complemented it. With The Body, because they made the movie Stand By Me, which I saw in high school, and that is a fantastic depiction as well. I kind of expected these 2 stories to be the way they were. Slight differences, like with The Body, some of the characters died near the end that were not portrayed dying in the end of Stand By Me, but they died in The Body. And I actually thought that was a better way to round it off, but the movie still carries enough of the story that it doesn't hurt it. And with Shawshank Redemption, the only real major difference I could put on the mark was the fact that Red is played by Morgan Freeman when he was supposed to be a red-haired Irishman in the story. That is different, but I actually think Morgan Freeman did a fantastic job, and it didn't really hurt the concept of the character that much. It just is a bit different. And then the prison guards and the wardens did change over the years while Andy Dufresne was in the prison. That is like the 2 major differences. Whereas when they did Apt Pupil, I watched that after I had read the story, and I actually liked the way the story was so much more darker in the novella than the movie. The movie's not bad, but I do find that like changing those differences hurt the story because the shock value of how dark the novella story is what made this book so thrilling for me to read. And the breathing method was kind of similar in that sense. And it also ties into the reason for our next category, which is suspense intensity. A 7 out of 10 because every story has a fair amount of tension, especially number 4. But number 2 really was thoroughly on the edge of my seat, like, nail biting kind of tension for that one as well. And those overall are so strong. That's why it boosted to a 7. In all 4 of these stories, I give it a 9 out of 10 for memorable characters because they're actually some of Stephen King's most remarkable and unforgettable characters of all his stories. I actually believe that. And I say that because, well, not only because of the big movies like The Body turning into Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption from Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, but even the characters like the um what's his name? The Nazi from At Pupil. He basically was such a scary, intense, realistic character that I honestly could say he might be one of the scariest and most unforgettable real life villains Stephen King ever created, right? And that's why I say, like, that actually makes it such a strong, like, take on something like that. DeSaunders. So he was like in charge of executing like the Jews back in the prison camps. And like as he's reliving that sort of history with Todd, the story's main protagonist, that in itself is like the strangest relationship ever, but it leaves an unforgettable mark. And then the mother from the breathing method is also another underrated character that Stephen King just really nailed, as well as the main storyteller who's going to this club hearing the story of this woman. He is actually a character that I wish Stephen King could have expanded upon more just because he's interesting. And the butler, who just happens to always be there, doesn't seem to age and seems to have been there forever. He's another really interesting character. So even the minor characters left a really strong impact, and that's why I give it a 9 out of 10. The overall rating totals up to 32 out of 40, and Different Seasons, in my opinion, is a literary stroke of genius and a masterpiece that is sure to thrill the ages. I really enjoyed it, and the experience of reading The Breathing Method and Apt Pupil are what overall, as I've talked about a lot, really make it a top 10 Stephen King book for me. So that's our review. And for our next one, we will do The Dark Half because that was the fourth book I've read in this journey. And hopefully, you look forward to that. Now, as far as progress, I've made it to Bag of Bones, which is book number 30 for me. And once I finish the 35, because I have five other ones after in total to read, that is when I decided, you know what, we'll make it 35 flat and we'll rank them then. And if and when I get to 50, which I'm sure I will, just because I've gotten this far already, right? We'll do another ranking to see if, certain ones change as more kind of fill up the space. So, hope you enjoyed this, and till next time, Super Comic Guru Alucard, peace out.